My name's Ed Holt. I am a registered mental health nurse, but I'm also a lecturer at the University of Essex, and I'm here to answer some questions that were put to me by some young people from the Southend YMCA, and they've been put to me, and hopefully I'll be able to answer some, or at least give some approximation as to understanding a bit more about what they're asking. Chloe Payne asks, I've heard a lot about anxiety and depression. Could you briefly sum up what PTSD and bipolar disorder are? Okay, so with this question here, you mention anxiety and depression, and it kind of, referring to PTSD and bipolar disorder, they are sort of very related. PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder, which it's an anxiety-related disorder. Post-traumatic stress meaning that it's after a traumatic event that a person can experience certain feelings, emotions, thoughts, and it can be displayed in their behaviour as well. So a person's reaction to a traumatic event, it can take days, weeks, months, years perhaps after an event for those symptoms to emerge for all manner of reasons. Traumatic events covers a range of many different traumatic events that a person can experience. They can manifest in different ways. It comes out of a person. It could be that they have these repetitive or intrusive thoughts about it. It could be that they experience the emotion. I suppose really if you think about it, just think about an embarrassing time or an embarrassing moment in your life that might have happened. Could have been at school, could have been in front of a large group of people. Almost just thinking about it creates that feeling inside you that, again, it reignites that heart rate pumping and all that sort of stuff. PTSD is like that, but in a much more severe form. It can create those experiences again to the point where if someone has it quite severely, they will relive the situation and react as if they were in that situation, and that can occur. It also, intrudes people's sleep. It can pervade all parts of their life and be quite distressing. And obviously finding a way through that can be quite difficult as well. Equally with bipolar disorder, you mentioned depression. It is a depression of sorts. A person who has bipolar may experience depression, but in the same way, people experience a regular sort of ups and downs in their life. There is this kind of almost regular flow of good and bad situations or good and bad times in your life. But someone with bipolar may have that depression where it will go beyond just being just a bit bad to something that's really, really where they are quite depressed, where their functioning, their ability to get through the day is really impacted. Depression with those symptoms, it could be, bad negative thoughts, it could be self-esteem issues. There's all sorts of things, but to the point where people don't want to get out of bed or do anything. But with bipolar, you have that, but at the same time, there is a recovery from that where they're coming out of depression. The trouble is with bipolar is that someone who has that, they can't necessarily cap it. They can't stop the recovery process. So that to the point where they're the opposite of depression. So in having no motivation, they have lots of motivation. They become prolific, writing, whatever it is, or doing something. The behaviour becomes what's described as manic. Someone who's manic may be very productive, do lots of things, manage lots of things, and there are lots of people in the public eye who are very productive and do wonderful things when they're on that element of the sort of higher side, I suppose, of bipolar. The trouble is that it has a peak because all of that energy that you're using and burning to do all this productivity, it can reach a point where a person is going too high, where they're using up too much energy. People can present with strange thoughts about themselves, different, perceptions, to the point where they put themselves at risk. And it's almost like the opposite. But a person with bipolar experiences the two, the crashing low and the incredible high. Arguably, it can be really damaging because it can damage the relationships that the person has in their life. It can do all sorts of untold damages, and then having to recover from that episode. I don't know if I've done it justice to explain it fully, but hopefully that might give a little bit of an idea of those two disorders.